Kia ora koutou wānau nau mai ara mai ki te aoha kina your sports show right here on your Tribal Pulse te kore mako o Taranaki 94.8 FM and 98.4 FM. He's as humble as they come. He's an ex-Waitara High School student, sprint champ and first 15 championship player. Spent plenty of time on the rugby union and rugby league field, but it was the game of touch that he was born into through his whānau, a sport he continues to give back to, and currently holds the role as chairperson for Touch Taranaki, while also coaching multiple local and representative teams. He's an all-round good bloke, and we're grateful to have him here on the show. Mike Taiapo, no mai hara mai.
Tēnā koutou i te whānau, tēnā koe Caps, e mihi anō kia koe e hoa, he pai ki te tūtaki anō. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora, brother. Hey, lovely to have you on the show with us, man. Really looking forward to catching up with you. But before we kind of delve into some kōrero around touch, ko wai koe no he koe a bit about yourself and where you were from.
Ka pai, tēnā koutou i te whānau, ko wai tēnei, ko mai taupo tōku ingoa, ki te taho tōku mātua he uri no te tai tokirau, no ngā puhi nui tone, ki te taho tōku māma, no ngā ruahine rangi, no rangatapu te takutai, no wai ngongoro te aua, te aukati o ngā iwi o ngā ruahine, me Ngāti Roa Nui, ko Okahu me ara kuku ngā hapu, ko wiri, me te oro kōwhai, ngā urupā, and ko Aotea me ki te marae, ngā marae, te taho tōku māma. Ai, he kai ako ahau, kei te hāpori, kei te pitu o te ao, kei Waitara o Manukorihi, ai he pāpā ahau, he toko whāku tamariki. Tēnā koutou.
Kia ora. Hey, and that's the beauty of whakapapa, right? And when we share where we're from, I got links down to Rangatapu as well. So, yeah, I'm sure we're probably linked there somewhere, my cuss. Hey,
yeah, probably are.
Hey, was it always touch for you, or, you know, from a young age, or was there other sports you played as well?
Probably both actually, because I actually grew up in Tāmaki. Most people think I've been in Waitara since, you know, I was born here or something, but I actually came down 12 years of age, and prior to coming here I played a lot of touch up in the Otara module as it was back then, and we had the Ruben Wikis and co, and they all played in those ones there, so touch was always around with my whānau in particular, but we also we were very strong in league, especially in Auckland and Tāmaki, and I didn't really play any rugby until I moved down here to Waitara. So, but then coming into high school here, there was a cohort of us that were interested in playing touch and got together. You know, like-minded friends, Councillor Moeohu, Kelly Moeohu, Riggs Heyman. So, you know, because we rolled in the same circles, the touch stuff sort of grew. Shane Hoskins. So, you know, some of those names are still around in the touch circles as players, as coaches, mentors, and as facilitators of the game. So, yeah, no, it was a bit of a mix, but yeah, touch has sort of always been in there, and probably over the last few years it's just grown. And even the passion of what I did, you know, everyone always says, where did you start from? I guess, you know, we talk about as players, we played right through, and then at some stage you want to give back. And I think lots of parents and coaches fall into it by default through schools. So when schools don't have coaches and things, they will ask those people, either parents, to be able to take a team and all those sorts of things, and you're sort of thrust into that. And then those who want to extend and push on and grow and learn a little bit more will push on, and those are there for the season will sort of just be there for the season. So, yeah, no, it's been many seasons now, Caps, and still here and still trying to be a player. I think kids would prefer me just to run some water when they need a bit of a drink or something like that. But yeah, in all areas, playing, coaching, facilitating, and now at the board level as well. So yeah, it's lots of mahi, but definitely, yeah, it's awesome to be part of.
Awesome, bro. I didn't know you were brought up in Tāmaki till you're 12. That just shows you're part of the fabric here, bro. I wouldn't know any different. Hey, and speaking of one of your mates, you mentioned the man himself, Mr. Dini Moeohu. I had a kōrero to him. He mentioned some fun you guys had at Waitara High School. So tell us a little bit about your days there, especially the year you won the first 15 championship. Tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, Dude, I don't know about that, Councillor, and some of the stories he tells people, you know, even some of my circles here, this is, oh, you know, Dini Moehu. I say, oh, no, what has he told you? Yeah, I guess we both ended up at Waitara High School the same year. I think it was like 90, 94, 95. Our whānau just happened to move here. And the meeting was... I'm not too sure which version he gave you, but we met down the corridors and there was some pleasantries exchanged around, oh, yeah, who's this? And probably not for the radio, but I guess from there, it was getting to know him through Kapahaka and First 15. And we had a pretty gun team back then, actually. We had the likes of... Regan Heyman, he was one of our wingers back then. We had Guy Luke and Nuku Waiwai. He's probably had the biggest boot in the game back in our high school days. And myself, Matua Hayden Healy, he was our champion sidestepper that we had set place for. Kelly Moehu and Dini. So it was, yeah, a lot of people sort of looked at us as friends and things like that, but yeah, on the rugby pitch, it was a little bit of a different story, and we didn't lose very many games. We scored lots of tries, we had lots of fun, but for us back then, it was a difference of you know, hanging around the streets or having something to go to and something to do. So sports was the vehicle for us back then, as well as Kapahaka. And then there came a time there we sort of had to choose, you know, because they sort of sat on par with opportunities this way and this way. And you know, we managed to, even with Kapahaka, travel overseas to China, and then another group went to Japan. But for the footy season, you know, we sort of, we went through pretty well unbeaten. And I think one particular year, when we went through with First 15, we had to play the Clifton under-19s, and Councillor and Kelly Boy ended up playing for the under-19s back then, and that was one of the only games that we lost. And it's probably a story he told you that you know, he's known for smiles off the field, but on the field he was a bit of a tank, and he only knew one way. He'd be in a big gap, running 100 miles an hour, you know, no one in front of him, and he'd step to the closest defender and then try to draw people to him. So knowing that, and I thought I'll give him a crack, being one of my best mates. And yeah, it was the only time he never actually went straight through. He stepped me, and I sort of looked up from behind just to hear his cackle and his laugh, and all the boys giving me a bit of stick for it. But he's never let me live it down. No, he's really quick to ground me and remind me about those situations from our younger days.
Oh, it's funny. It's funny you say that, because you spoke of the first encounter. He did mention the first encounter actually to me.
I bet he did.
Oh, always a good laugh. You also mentioned something else. I heard you're a bit of a sprinter back in your high school days.
Oh, I guess, you know, when you hear the word you're on dishes, you're pretty quick to get out of there and things like that. No, but I was lucky enough, before I came down to Waitara, I had a teacher, Matua Joe Naden was his name. I went to a kura called Clover Park Intermediate, which is now known as Kaoroha College, and we had quite a good athletics team back then, and we were in 5 different areas. And he said to me, he goes, "Oh, have you ever done athletics?" And I said, "Nah, just pretty much jump on the paddock and run and just do what I can do." And I went to school with Ali Laotiti, and that was primary school, and then intermediate school as well. And there was himself, me, and another guy, Tony Saipili, that was sort of top 3 coming through. I didn't really like athletics, but I had an uncle that, you know, he was like, every time he saw me on the couch out, we'd get a bit of training. So I sort of came that way. And then coming down, he introduced me to athletics in Auckland. We went to lots of meets and trainings and high jumps and long jumps, which is quite funny now. If I said it, you know, like I say, you know, like I'm 6 foot, but actually probably about 5'11", high jumping, and trying to teach my kids here, and they look and think, "Well, you're a high jumper, Matua." But I learned a lot of the things from him, from being able to take me to the meets. And then coming down here, I guess, you know, big city down to the little country schools, or you know how we saw them, it was just not as many people, so more opportunities. But yeah, I raced him, Kelly, Reegs, and Lucan, and so managed to win a couple of years, and ended up as the high school sprint champ there by accident, I guess. I'm sure they just were kind in letting me win, bro.
Twinkle toes, hey, twinkle toes. Hey, no, that's cool. That's cool. So touch. So you come down, you move down to Taranaki. You know, you get involved with the game here. How big is the game of touch here locally in Taranaki, and what made you kind of pursue coaching at a representative level and all that jazz?
Well, actually, obviously, because I always played touch, I always really loved the game of touch. But a few years back, I was working at Waitara East School, and at that time, Mike King, he was the principal. He was the tūmaki at Waitara East, and he ended up being the manager for the Open Mix team in 2005, and that was coached by Rangi Hiroti, one of our other local whānau as well. And they needed a video analysis person come into the video, take segments of all of the training camps. And this was prior to YouTube, which is showing my age a little bit. But the opportunity to go into camp with them and just look at the setup and how professional it was even at that time. But you were along the maestros of Pete Walters, Shah Bannister, and that's when Trasky was playing, Tras Damon, Shawnee Brown, also another local boy from Taranaki, and we had most of the kids of, probably not so much now, but in the last few years would know about Dean Williams, who was one of the young guns coming through. So that was that actual team. They were prepping for All Nations. So that was my first introduction to international touch, and I just loved the whole, you know, the setup, the training aspect of it, the professionalism, the you know, just how they applied themselves to everything. And they had a lot of games and things against counties. So that for me probably sparked my interest in maybe pursuing coaching, you know, beyond playing. But I guess as a player, we've always had modules in Waitara, in Bell Block and Hawera. Now it's sort of grown. We've got one down in Opunake that have sort of started up with their kids' grades and a couple of social adult grades, and then we've got our North Taranaki Touch out in Inglewood, run by Steph Phipps, and so it's quite big, especially in the sense of numbers around the mountain. And I guess probably our biggest is from our primary school ages up into our intermediate grades. And then we sort of have a high school age of 16s to 18s, where there's a bigger cohort, probably more up here, up in the north, around the city and Waitara areas. And then you've got your adult grades, which most of the modules have, but more social up this end of it. And for a lot of our rep players, we've got what we call the elite grade that runs on Wednesday night, run by Shane Gray and City Touch, that has a little bit of a system of trying to, I guess, grow and extend and keep our top athletes in the game, playing the game at quite a high level. So, yes, started there, still here, bro, still here.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Such a good game, Touch. It's for everybody. It's a whānau game. So tell us, is there any special players that are kind of coming through the ranks at the moment and playing nationally?
There's we've got a couple actually that sit in the high performance. You know, from the last few years, we've had for the 18s grade, we had Tate Whalen, who's a local Waitara girl. Her older sister, Finn, has been in the system for 21s and age groups as well prior to that. We've had, obviously, Stevie Collingwood, who's been in that same setup up to the 21s grades. But with Tate in the last 2-3 years, we've had her, we've had Nate Riddick, Tomai, my boy. Cullen Reed's been another one. He's one of our city touch boys, and his whānau hail from Oakura, who's now at Waikato University. Who else did we have in there? Yeah, there's quite a few that sit in that pool of talented players that have been probably for the last 3 years. This year they've got a little bit of a setup in the way that they've picked the teams, and we've had another 3 that just were recently named in some of the wider squads. So Tate again was picked up in our 20 women's, and then also she is in the wider squad for the open women's team as well. We have a young, 2 young guys that have also been picked up for the, I think, 18 men's, just to look at the squads for World Cup for next year. Jerome Tomatia and also Taylor Fox.
Awesome. That's a good representation, for a little place like Taranaki on the national stage.
Yeah. Well, especially in the recent years, we've sort of got numbers, and it's built. And I think it's it's a bit of a transition phase. Like historically, lots of them came from our mixed game. And obviously for that, most of our competitions around Taranaki, especially in our adults and our elite games, they're mixed grades competitions. But fortunately this year we had 2 that have come through the boys' high system. Dean Hickok has had a bit of a foot in there in helping to grow and develop some of these young talents coming through. And then Mr. Josh Angel, who's one of the teachers there at the moment, who's taken over with Johnny Edmonds, and they're sort of helping to nurture those boys through. So they've sort of had a good grounding, and then even under them, they've got another good crop that are coming through to start building those genders grades. So it's a little bit of a shift, and I think at the Taranaki level, we're looking at where we can sort of meet wherever those trends are. And I think the biggest conversation that we're having as a committee at the moment is our mixed game versus our genders game. And the reason why is obviously because all of our modules run predominantly mixed competitions, and anybody that's been to our nationals lately can see the level of competition around our 18s, both in the boys and the girls grades, is just next level. So, I think the thinking there is, where do we go in regards to our genders? Because we don't quite have a genders competition here in Taranaki, but it's just food for thought of how we develop that pathway, or whichever way that we decide to go. Because as a province, we're not huge, but we definitely have a lot of talent here that we're trying to nurture and develop those pathways. But Keps being at that board level and, in those sorts of seats, there's some of the decisions, there's lots of conversations to be had, and the whys and the why nots versus the logistics of what we actually have to work with and our people on the ground, which has been huge. So, yeah, that's where we sit at the moment.
You've been doing some amazing work right around the maunga with our touch whānau. Continue to do some awesome stuff. So yeah, kudos to you and all the team around the maunga doing all the amazing work. Now I got a couple of shot fire questions for you. Just you got to answer us back with one word, and then we'll go from there. So the first question is, how many yellow and red cards have you had throughout your rugby and league career? Only one answer.
Few.
There we go, Mr. Moehu. And the last one is, out of all the Moehus you went to school with, which one was your favourite?
Oh. One's my brother-in-law, so I see where these questions are going. Well, I'd have to say, Councillor, he's always been known as one of my best friends, and I suppose we'll stick to that, and it's still the same to this day.
Oh, he's awesome. He's got a lot of love for you. We've got a lot of love for you, that's for sure. But hey, brother, had to finish on a bit of a laugh. But hey, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you.
To hear your journey and all the awesome mahi that you have done and you continue to do, not only for the game, but for our rangatau, for our community, and just in general. So our world needs more people like you in our community. So keep up the great mahi, and all the very best for the up and coming touch season.
Awesome. Thanks, Brother Kips. Happy to chat anytime.